Well, Coleen, I'm so excited to speak to you today and to share your journey with our viewers today as well, because it's been a very exciting and long journey with you and I think your journey with not only learning German, but also
Mhm.
relocating to Germany, finding a job, and all of that is very inspiring and very motivating as well for a lot of people who might want to go down the same route. So I'm really excited to sit down with you today to go down memory lane a little bit and just discuss also a few key takeaways, experiences, things that you've learned that might be also helpful to share with others. So let's just start with a little introduction first for those who don't know you. So obviously I know you very well now, but for those who don't know, who are you and what was your motivation initially to learn German?
Hi, my name is Coleen and I'm from the Philippines. And I've started my journey in the Philippines way back in 2021 or
Yeah, about that time.
2020. It wasn't as easy as you think it would be, but I'll share you how it went. So I decided to learn German because I wanted to work abroad. And in Germany, I wasn't really interested in working in the States because of number one, health insurance and the security in general, and as well as discrimination, maybe. No, not maybe, but yeah. Those are the 3 points that I considered since I have a son. While learning German, I had COVID twice because I
Oh
wasn't
no.
getting enough sleep. I was working and learning German at the same time. I think I only was getting 6 hours of sleep because my class at that time, it wasn't with you yet, Salome. It was with
Yeah.
another teacher that was preparing for my exam, and which also helped. So my class were at nighttime and then I had to work in the daytime. So it wasn't really easy. And my immune system went down. So I contracted COVID twice. But it was a blessing in disguise because I had time to study for my exam. Fast forward, I passed my exam and I could not really resign because I won't have anything to give to my son to pay for his school, food, and everything. So
Right.
I
You
had
mean like
to
resign
work
your
at
a
the same
job at
time.
in the Philippines at the time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And the good thing about that was that I had weekend offs because I was in the Catholic. It's like a specialized area. It was considered like a diagnostic center, so I had weekend offs. But then sometimes I still had to work and study it. And even on Sundays, I have to study. And fast forward to passing the exam, I realized that my German is still not enough because I don't have anyone to speak with
Hmm.
German every day. So I was on Instagram and I saw Salome's post. I'm not really quite sure if it was an Instagram or I think it
It
was
might have
either Instagram or yeah, was it on Instagram?
maybe Instagram or Facebook. Like
Instagram or Facebook.
yeah. Yeah,
So I
right.
signed
You
up for
signed up
that.
for the free webinar, I think, for
Yeah,
beginners that I was hosting at the time. And then after you've joined, we've basically sat down in a call.
yeah,
And I still remember our first meeting very clearly because you've told me you've already like passed your German language exam, but you had literally like zero confidence in speaking. And I was so
yeah.
confused about how how you managed how you manage to like pass the exam and but then still like lack confidence really in speaking. And I think that really shows the struggle a lot of people have with
Yeah,
traditional language classes who only focus you on like helping you to pass an exam. It doesn't really show your actual like skills in
correct.
using the language in daily life. I always say like passing an exam is actually not that big of a challenge because you can prepare the topics, the
Yeah,
questions, and everything is going to be asked. But then actually speaking in real life where you have human interaction that you can't really prepare for that much, you actually need to rely on your skills. That can
yeah,
be quite difficult. So when we met the first time on the call, you told me about like your situation then about like okay, you've done courses and then passed the exam but still lacking confidence in speaking. What were some of the challenges you were experienced at that time that made you want to enroll into the German Fluency Academy?
I really didn't have that much grasp of the basics like the A1, what I call that.
The topics,
Yes,
curriculum.
I didn't have that much grasp of it. So if you don't have much grasp of A1, it's hard for you to move into A2 and B1 and B2 because you wouldn't really understand everything. So
Yeah.
I've read a lot of comments that you have to memorize the Adidas by heart. And there are some rules in German that it is what it is. You cannot just you and as for me, I always have to, I would always want to ask, why is it like this? Why is it not like this? And why is it really just like this? So I memorized the Adidas by heart, the ending, res,
Yeah.
MRMN, and then SR. So I also found this Pinterest, these guides that I had on my phone until now. Can you imagine?
Very
If I'm
good.
not sure, I go back to my favorites and have a look at it if it's really nice, if I have the correct ending.
Right, right. So like grammar back then was like a big struggle and like really building a
Yeah,
foundation, because if you don't really have a foundation, it's difficult to speak and difficult to build
yeah,
like
I
further
understand.
skills along the line.
And your program really helped me a lot. Even though I've already passed the exam, I was willing to go back from the basics because for me that's very important. I'm just very happy and that I signed up for it. So I always try to, even on, we have like video calls on Wednesday, and even if I'm so tired already, I always try to join. And even
Yeah.
before I also lack confidence because I'm so afraid of making mistakes. I think that's the problem with us who are still learning the German language, because we're afraid to commit mistakes. However, with committing mistakes, you would know what's right from wrong, right?
Right.
You would be able to identify, okay, this is not the right ending. Okay, I should use this one. And with the right placement of the verb, that's also
Right, right.
was very confusing even up to now. But it's just funny because I realized that the more you speak the language and use the conjunctions such as when, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Then it's like my mind automatically knows that at the end of the sentence that should be the placement of the verb.
Right,
And I was
right.
amazing myself. So fast forward, coming to Germany, I arrive on my birthday. So the
Such a nice
important
birthday
dates
gift.
that I came here, I could not really forget it. I arrive on my birthday. My last exam was All Souls Day. And
Okay.
it reminds me of my grandmother. So I kind of like, okay, this is for you. I passed my exam. This is also for you.
Right,
Both of my
right.
grandmothers passed away already.
Oh.
So my first day here was like, I was walking. I didn't even know that the red path on the road or on the street is for bikes.
Right.
It's
Before
winter
we get
time.
into like the cultural shocks and like adjusting to a new country and all of that, I want to take it one step back actually, because basically we've stopped at where you've joined the program and it helped you build like the foundations.
Mhm.
And then you also started applying for jobs at the
Yeah.
time, right? Like, because I also want to touch a little bit on that, because a lot of people who are maybe not living in the German speaking countries yet do want to start looking for job opportunities there. And also you've done the entire not only job application process from the Philippines, but also the job interview as well, right? So how did that journey go about? Was it difficult to apply for jobs and preparing for the job interview? What were some of the key takeaways that you can share from that experience?
As for me, I had a friend who was already here who was helping me look for a job. So I had an agency, but I decided to not continue with it and just look for an employer by
Right.
myself. So I had to process my recognition myself. So I submitted my documents here in CX, and then they responded a month after, and I got my result. I got my Bescheid or decision. They're only giving me partial recognition. So I had to decide whether to take an Kenntnisprüfung or Anpassungslehrgang, which is an adaptation course. As for the Kenntnisprüfung, it
Yeah.
takes like 3 months to prepare for the exam. And for the Anpassungslehrgang, it will take you like 8 to a year. So I chose that. We called the hospital, and then I had an interview. I submitted my documents, so I had an interview. I was lucky I get the job, even though we were discussing during the interview. They were showing me, okay, this is the hospital, this is how it works here, blah blah blah. And I could not really understand everything.
Right, right. I remember like at that time, I was kind of also helping you with preparing for the job
Yeah.
interview.
The entire interview was in German, and I had like my cheat sheets on the side of my laptop. And one
I
interview
still,
that actually was a catastrophe
but at
because,
the end you got the job, right?
yeah, I got a job here. I had two opportunities, but it's good that I decided to go here in Münster because Münster is really nice for me. It's not big of a city. It's not also that small, but it's okay.
Yeah,
It's okay.
I love Münster. I frequently visit Münster as well because I also have friends there, and it's a very nice city. I like also that it's not that big and crowded and doesn't really
Yeah.
have this big city vibe, but you still have a lot of things going on, especially in summertime
Mhm.
or during Christmas. So that's really nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so you took the entire job interview in Germany. I also really like want to highlight that because where you started was like basically no confidence in speaking and then gradually like building a foundation, really practicing a lot and learning a lot and studying while still like working basically full time in the Philippines,
Mhm.
right? And then taking an entire job interview in German. And even though you might not have understood everything, it was still enough to get the job and for them to approve your application, which is like, well done, Coleen. Like this is not an easy thing to do. And I think sometimes we forget like how far we've come and what effort and hard work we had to put in to really get to a certain point. So I'm really proud of you for going through that
Thank
entire
you.
journey. And then after basically the job approval, then the whole visa application process kind of started, and then the relocation process to Germany as well, which I want to touch on next kind of like so relocating to Germany. Have you been to Germany before you've moved there, or was that also the first time you
Yeah,
actually
everything was really a first, and it really took me out of my comfort zone. That's all I can say. The first 3 months wasn't easy. I have
mm,
cried, and like I was still staying in a prison of Bonheim, and when you look straight to my window, you can see a church. I'm a religious person, so I just kept on praying. And I can say that everything happens for a reason because I was supposed to arrive here in September and join the August September class. But the good
mm.
thing about arriving late was that the school was here in Munster. And August and September batch was in Rhine.
Oh,
So
okay, so
they
you
have
would
to
have
travel sometimes and do online class. But the good thing about the school here in Munster, it's a walking distance from the hospital and from where I'm staying. So
oh
I always think that everything really happens for a reason. And it wasn't that hard for me too.
right. So that yeah, that's really convenient that you've kind of like are able to have everything nearby
Yeah.
and you don't need to travel for classes and things like that to do the job training and so on.
Mhm.
You've mentioned the first 3 months were kind of the hardest to adapt. What did you find like most challenging and how did you overcome it?
It was winter time and it was like the sun sets at 4 a.m., 5, right now it's 5 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And then I miss the food. I
Fair
miss
enough.
the
There's no
I miss
Jollibee
my friends.
in
And
Germany.
when I was in the Philippines, when I am stressed out, I usually just go out with friends and have a drink. But here I can't because I don't know anyone. So my classmates knew someone who also came from the Philippines and they connected me to her. And that's where I also found the Filipino community here. So
Sometimes that's
yeah,
all
it
you
was
need, right? Like sometimes
yeah.
because I can really resonate with that story with relocating. I've relocated a bunch of times as well, like to different countries as well, and kind of doing the whole adaptation process as well. But sometimes when it comes to like finding friends, you just need that one really good friend who's going to
Yeah.
just take you along to events and introduce you to other people, and then suddenly you have a whole network of people. So I think that's a very good key takeaway or lesson to learn, is that you don't necessarily need to find a whole big group of friends in the beginning, because I think also that that's very overwhelming when you're like setting this
Yeah.
expectation for yourself. Okay, I need to build like a whole circle of friends. Actually, most of the time it's completely enough to just find that one friend and then take it from there,
Mhm.
basically.
Yeah. I had friends here, but she's in Frankfurt. The other ones are also quite far away. I could not really cry over the phone and call my family
Mm-hmm.
because I don't want them to worry about me. So maybe because also reason that I was able to overcome it because I'm an only child, and when I was still back in the Philippines, I usually do things on my own. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
used to doing things alone. So that's also a plus for me. But
Mm-hmm.
for everyone who's not used to doing that, it will pass. It's just a phase. That's what I always tell my friends who also came here, and they sometimes they get depressed. Others would want to go home because
Mm-hmm.
way back then maybe it's easier, and some maybe not would want to or
Right.
go through something that would take them out of their comfort zone. But to each their own. Working
Okay.
abroad, it's not for the faint-hearted, but all you have to do, if you have a goal in mind, just go through it. It's
Right.
just everything, it will just be a phase. When everyone is going to another place, no matter what your nationality is, or where you come from, you always have to start from scratch. There will always be a phase that you would feel sad because you're not adjusted yet, you're not used to it, and just go with the flow.
Yeah.
That's what we did, and I
Yeah.
also prayed a lot and through hard work. I can still remember the first day that my colleague asked me, "Und erwachsene auch?" And I could not really understand what erwachsene means. And then when I got on my Google, it's actually adult.
Right. So that's another thing I wanted to kind of talk to you about, like how it went about with your German language skills, because up to that point, you've studied for the most part, or for all of the
Yeah.
part actually, in the Philippines, and you only had basically the exposure to the German language through the German Fluency Academy and the previous courses you've done as well, and then you've basically moved to Germany. How was it in the beginning with like navigating daily life using German, like just basically conversations at the bakery or at the restaurant, or like when you were out and about? How did that go for you in the beginning?
Well, one time I was at the Weihnachtsmarkt
Mm-hmm.
and I was really hungry, and I thought to myself, if I don't speak a word, I will really go hungry. I will go home
Oh
hungry.
no.
I just said, Ich möchte gerne ein Currywurst bitte. Because
Oh,
that's
well
the only
done.
food I know from there. And I was just like roaming around, and it was raining. And then I just spoke. I didn't have a choice that time. I don't want to go hungry.
Yeah, sometimes different kinds of situations just like force us to get over ourselves and get out of our comfort zone. And that's exactly what you need to do. You kind of just need to start speaking and also overcome that fear of making mistakes. That's something you've mentioned in the beginning, that there was something that you were struggling with. How did you overcome that? Was it just like basically accepting that it's going to be messy in the beginning and that's how you
Yes.
learn, or
And sometimes I have to like write my sentences at home and then look at my phone and be ready with what I'm gonna say. I'm just hoping that there would be no follow-up questions. One time I ordered a boba tea, and then the guy asked me, "Außerdem?" I'm like, bitte?
außerdem?
Anything else? And then he said, anything else?
I really love the fact that you're also taking this with humor now, like, right? Like, because a lot of times I think people are so serious about like this whole challenge with like speaking and then making mistakes and all of that. And I think a really good way to look at it is to take it with like humor and to just take it one step at a time and not take
Yeah.
yourself too seriously, because otherwise really this is going to get you and stuck in your head specifically. And now you speak German every single day, basically, right? At your work, it's
At work,
mostly in German.
although I still don't understand everything yet because they speak so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Then if I hear a word that's familiar, okay, that's what I'm gonna do. And then I just have to clarify it. But then if I don't understand, I would really ask. That's the most important thing. If you don't understand what they're trying to let you do, confirm and ask. Because if you do it and when you say yeah, and then you don't know how to do it, they're not going to be happy with it. So
Right.
just confirm and ask, should I do this? Or did I do something wrong? Or did I do it right? And when they say, du hast gut gemacht, then we need to say what you did was right.
Yay!
I still
That's
don't
great.
understand everything yet, even at work. But then I just have my praxis and Leiterin is really good. She's been working the hospital and for 18 years now, and she's also
Mm-hmm.
very. What I appreciate about her is that she talks to me in German. She doesn't try to talk to me in English. She talks to me in German, and if I don't understand a word, I would ask, "Was bedeutet das?" And then if you're gonna be home, what you're gonna be speaking, of course, you're gonna be calling your family, and you'd be speaking your dialect or English. Always try to listen everything in German, like a
Mm-hmm.
podcast, because that's what I did when I was still studying for my exams. I had mundliche Prüfung, everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then I always try to listen to the podcast. I just let it play. I don't have a TV yet here, but that's my plan. Once I have a TV, I would just let it play or listen to the podcast or songs in German, and you would be able to understand. And even when you're riding a train or a bus, take note of those words that are new to you and try to understand
Mm-hmm.
it, or look at your phone and maybe Google what that means, and use DeepL as translator because
Yes.
they're accurate than Google.
That's true. That's like one of the translation tools we recommend in the German Fluency Academy, right?
Yeah.
People, and then also Lingui is very helpful as well.
And just try to speak German, and no matter if you commit a mistake or not, because if I'm not sure about the verb or like it's happened in the past already, I would say, for example, I would ask my colleague, what's the right word? Gefahrt oder gefahren? And they would say gefahren. And then they
Mm-hmm.
would correct you. That's what I
Yeah.
do. So if I'm not sure, then I would ask them.
Yeah.
Like,
I think that's a really good tip as well, to be proactive about that, asking for feedback, because I think a lot of times people, especially also in the workplace, might not want to be rude and correct you, and because they don't want you to make you feel uncomfortable, right? But if you're the person really actively asking for feedback, asking like how to say certain things in German, or just like double confirming if you've understood correctly, this kind of enables them also to give you feedback and to correct you if something is not right, and makes them feel less uncomfortable doing that as well. And ultimately, you're just going to benefit from it, and like your language skills are definitely going to improve a lot, because you're also learning things in context, right? Very rarely I feel like we make the same mistakes multiple times when we learn how to say something properly in context. Like if it was in your daily life, if it was a funny situation, or even maybe if it was like a serious situation, we definitely remember these things a lot better than just like sticking to a textbook, or like memorizing vocabulary from a
yeah.
list and things like that.
It's hard to
That's
memorize all the vocabularies, but once you always use the most common words that you use in daily life, then you can remember it easily. So,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Before you move to the department you're working at right now, you've told me a funny story with one of your patients as well. Like, so before, basically with your patients, you were also speaking solely in German, right? Because
yeah.
I can imagine most of them don't really speak English. Is that correct?
Yes. No. So
Yeah.
I always give them a heads up. My Deutsch is so good. That's my line. Ich bin nicht so lange hier. And then
Yeah.
I would say, Doc, du sprichst so gut Deutsch.
That's also the
Sie
thing.
sprechen so good Deutsch. It's like a motivation. And then I always try to build rapport to my patients, because that's how you gain their trust. Always communicate with them, because they're sick, they have anxiety, what's going on with them. So try to just relate to them in normal ways. Don't be taken aback if you don't understand what they're saying. Then you just have to ask them what they really mean. If you don't understand what they're trying to say, then you can ask your colleagues that she told me something, but I could not really understand it. So
Yeah, yeah, and I must say also, for those who are listening right now, Coleen is a very humble person. So you're always like saying, "Oh, my German is like not there yet," and so on. But if you really take a look at the facts of how far you've come, you're speaking German in your professional workplace, in your professional life right now. Every single day you're navigating daily life in Germany in German as well. So you've come a long way, and that's also something to really be proud of. So kudos to you for that as
Thank
well.
you. When I got my Urkunda, I could really say I'm so proud of myself. I got
Yeah.
all of it. And right now, I'm just gonna have to continue speaking in German. It's still so hard for me. I'm still really, sometimes I feel dumb that I'm not able to fully explain what I really mean to my colleagues, because sometimes there are some sentences in English that it's so hard to translate in German. So you
Mm-hmm.
have to really think, what, okay, how do you say that? Some of my colleagues understand English, but not all of them. But some of them also don't really give a crap if you don't understand. They just speak German to you. And okay, and I'm just trying to grasp what they're trying to say, what they're trying to tell me. But it's a good thing that since my unit here or my station here is the same as what I had in the Philippines, so I'm quite familiar with how everything works, but still not everything, because still not 100% the same, especially with the
Mm-hmm.
procedures, but at least I'm getting there with the help of my praxis and lightering.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. Can you share a little bit about your future plans as well in terms of like relocating your family and like what else basically your goals are for this year?
For those of you that who doesn't know yet, I think I didn't say this yet. I'm a single mother, so it wasn't really easy coming here
Mm-hmm.
and leaving my son behind. Originally, we have planned to come together here, but at the very last minute, at the time that we were going to apply for a visa, I decided to just leave him in the Philippines for now because I won't have time for him here. I need to study, I need to work. But then last year, I decided to invite my aunt and him first for a visit. And I think I can say that I made the right decision because he liked it. And it's not going to be
Yeah.
a shock for him anymore. Maybe there are some things that he would find maybe a little bit surprising, but the idea of coming to Deutschland is already like in his head. He knows that he's coming here and he likes it here. And yeah, so I'm just waiting for my residence permit, the new one, and then I would need to apply for a visa. In fact, I'm hoping that it will be approved before August this year because I have plans coming home and pick
Mm-hmm.
him up from the Philippines and bring him here. My problem is right now is that the Anmeldung or registration is already done in November. So I have to maybe call or go to the Das Amt für Schule.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and inquire what advice could they give me since it's
Mm-hmm.
already done the registration. And when he comes here in August, in Germany, every 6 years old, is this correct? Should go to
Yeah.
school. It's
Yeah,
Pflicht.
there's a so-called a Schulpflicht, which
Sorry.
is
Yeah.
where basically
So
everyone needs to go
maybe
to needs to go to school.
we just have to wait for a little. And there is also a school nearby my workplace. And then I'm hoping that we could get into that school because I have, once I'm done with my shift, I can easily pick him up and then we
Right,
go home.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So big plans for this year with like applying for residency, figuring out the visa applications, and then bringing your
Mhm.
son also to Germany. But I'm very certain that you're going to overcome or tackle these challenges as you've already done so many times in the past. And yeah, your story is really inspiring, and hopefully we were able to also motivate and inspire some others who are thinking about taking on the same journey, relocating to Germany, finding a job there, learning the language as well. It's definitely not an easy process. Moving countries is always challenging. There are always like things that we need to overcome, but there are definitely ways to do it, and you're proof of that. It's possible if you put your mind to it, and if you are
Yeah.
resilient and you just like go through it and deal with the challenges one step at the time, and not to
Yeah.
be try to overwhelm yourself with too much stuff. So thank you so much, Coleen, for this conversation today. I'm sure it's going to be super helpful for those who are watching, and we'll keep you guys also up to date on like how it's going with this year, and your son relocating as well at some point, learning German as well. So that's going to be fun for you too. Kids are actually quite good with like picking up languages. I'm very certain he's going to do great with that as well. So thank you so much, Coleen, and I hope to talk to you
Thank you
soon.
for your time.